primary ignition.
Welcome to Unlimited Power. My name is D-Rod, and thank you so much for watching one of my pre-release guides for Star Wars Unlimited's newest set, Legends of the Force. Now, in this guide, we're going to be focusing on the leader and their unique ability and commons and uncommons found within the set that work well with this leader. Yes, there's probably a rare or legendary or two that also pair well with your leader, but because you're limited on the amount of packs that you're opening, we're going to be focusing on the cards that you're going to have more access to within your card pool. And don't forget to enter my Guess the Showcase giveaway that we're going to be running, where you can win a custom merch bundle that includes dice, tokens, and token holders. All you have to do is guess which showcase leader I'm going to pull from the Carbonite case live on July 5th on stream. There's a link in the description below with more details on how you can sign up. Because we're likely to pull more than one type of showcase, there can be multiple winners. With that said, let's go ahead and look at this Legends of the Force leader. Let's go ahead and take a look at Rey, who's making her second appearance in Star Wars Unlimited as a heroic aggression leader. Now, Rey has an ability where you can take an action to exhaust her, and if you played a non-unit force card this phase, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. As an epic action, you can deploy Rey when you have 7 or more resources, which is going to be as early as turn 6, and when she deploys, she has the ability to discard your hand and draw you up to 2 more cards. This is great when you have no more cards in hand, especially because Rey comes a little bit later in the match. When she's in the ground arena, she is a 6/8 unit, so she is a bomb and a threat that your opponent has to deal with. However, Rey's leader ability is a little bit slow. You have to essentially take an action to play a non-unit force card and then use a second action to deal the damage. A little bit slower from what we've seen from other leaders in the past, but Rey does not use the force token to do these damages. Let's take a look at some key cards and their abilities that will work well with Rey's unique text boxes here. The first one's going to be a force card that's an event that costs 1, directed by the force. Low-cost force cards are going to be important here. You really want to try to maximize the damage Rey is doing every turn, but you don't want it to come at a sacrifice of putting units on the board. Low-cost force events or upgrades are going to help you do that, even if they don't have a big effect. For example, directed by the force just creates a force token, which you don't necessarily need unless you're using other cards that rely on the force. Next one's going to be Whirlwind of Power. Now, this is a 3-cost force event that says you can give a unit -2/-2 for this phase, and if you control a force unit, give it a -3/-3 instead. Giving a unit a negative health is really important here with Rey's ability. You would lower the health and hopefully make them low enough to where you can just ping them away without having to attack the unit directly. This allows you to save your units on the board by them keeping their health or their shield upgrade tokens, and you just get through the units with a less penalty. The last one's going to be a character like Venestra Rowe. This is a rare with the ability that says, when played, you may use the Force, which means you lose the Force token, and if you do, ready the unit. Since Rey does not use abilities that are using the Force token every turn, Venestra Rowe's abilities are really important because you're not going to have a downside when you play her as long as you have a force token. Other leaders that use the force have to make the decision and time things appropriately, whereas Rey may just have the force token for a few turns without ever having to utilize it. So let's go ahead and take a look at now some key cards within each aspect that are going to work well with your deck building. Let's start with aggression. The first one's going to be a 4-cost Ki-Adi-Mundi. Now, even though Rey plays a little bit slow, you can time when you have Ki-Adi here because he's a 4-cost 4/4 unit that says, when played, you may use the Force, and if you do, draw 2 cards. That's pretty solid here. Ki-Adi's a great turn 3 play. You're going to want to draw cards. If you have the Force token, it's great. We've already talked about that. The other one is going to be Sorcerer's Blast. It's a 1-cost force event, which can trigger Rey's abilities, but it allows you to use the Force token to deal 3 damage to a unit. If you're a leader that's using the Force consistently, this may be a harder card to pull off, but with Rey, you'll have more consistency in having a Force token available. In the command aspect, I'm going to recommend Tarantatic. It's a 5/5 ambush creature that says that only has ambush, if your opponent controls a force unit. Ambush is going to be effective here with Rey's ability because you can kind of ping your units down a little bit. They'll be surprised at an ambush attack coming in. It can also help trigger different force triggers, or gaining the force triggers through your bases. We see that with the next ambush unit, Jedi Temple Guards. Jedi Temple Guards has ambush and restore 2, and they are a force unit. So they can swing in, trigger any force attacking triggers, as well as hit the unit while healing your base. With a character like Rey, being able to ping things down is going to be very helpful. So I'd also recommend any of the mechanic keywords Overwhelm, just because you're dealing some damage to the units, and Overwhelm will help you get a little bit more damage on the base. In the cunning aspect, the Jedi Sentinel is another great card that says when you have the Force, it gains Sentinel. A 4-cost 5/4, this is going to be important because Rey is going to take you a little bit further throughout the match because she takes longer to deploy. So Sentinel units are important. A low-cost event here is called Impossible Escape that says you may pay 1 and you may either exhaust a friendly unit or use the Force. And if you do either of these, exhaust an enemy unit and draw a card. Again, you're not using the Force to use Rey's abilities, so if you can use the Force and get some benefits from that without having to strategize as much or plan as other leaders do, this is a really good card. In the vigilance aspect, Shatterpoint's going to help you defeat a lot of those low health units with where you can choose one of the options. You can either defeat a non-leader unit with 3 or less remaining HP, or you can use the Force, and if you do, defeat a non-leader unit. Both of these options are great with a character like Rey. Then you have the Iterant Warrior, who's a 4-cost 4/4 with shield that says when play you may use the Force token, and if you do, heal 3 damage for your base. Again, a lot of units here are a little bit more beneficial with Rey because they're using Force tokens, and Rey does not need Force tokens to use her ability. For the heroic aspect, I'm going to recommend Jedi Vector. You're playing Jedi, you're playing lightsabers. This is just a great space vehicle that can eventually hit for 3. Comes out early, small little threat that can get bigger over time, and even nice in the later parts of the match. And next is Refugee of the Path. We mentioned earlier, Rey takes a while to come out, so Sentinel units are going to be important here. When Refugee of the Path comes out, you can give a shield token to a unit with Sentinel, so being able to keep those Sentinel units on board a little bit longer is going to be helpful in getting Rey out and forcing your opponent to deal with the threat of your leader. For the non-aspect, I'm going to recommend Ravening Gundark, which just says when played, deal 1 damage to a ground unit. They're a 5-cost 5/4. Dealing damage to ground units or any units is important. You're going to see a lot of this type of ability among aggression aspect cards within the set. So any of them like the Gundark are obviously going to be helpful when you have Rey who's also pinging units. Next is Last Words. It's a 2-cost event. It is not a force trait, but it just says if a friendly unit was defeated this phase, give 2 experience tokens to a unit. It's going to take you a while to deploy Rey. You're going to be losing units. You're going to need to trade your units with your opponent when you can. And so using those trades to your advantage is helpful. Last Words allows you to defeat, strengthen one of your remaining units on board, continually making threats upon threats until Rey comes out. And that's what you want to do. You want to strengthen up individual units as you go, and just try to survive until Rey hits the board while being aggressive where you can. So let me know if you end up playing Rey at your local pre-release. I think she is a fun leader. Maybe not my favorite within sealed, but I think she's going to do great in the premiere format. If you do end up playing Rey, let me know what aspect you chose, what were some of your rares or the bombs of your deck, and your overall record here in the comments below. Thanks again for watching this video. Really appreciate your time. Good luck at your local pre-release, and may the Force be with you.